The Earl Elopes. Written by Barbara Cartland. Narrated by Anthony Wren. Chapter 1. 1872. The Earl of Bourne, driving his team of chestnut horses, was thinking with great delight how excellent they were. He had purchased them at Tattersall's a fortnight earlier. Their previous owner had died and left a huge pile of debts, and thinking of debts made the Earl remember that he had not yet paid for his superb team. The reason that he was going home was to see his father about his overdraft. The Duke of Shelbourne had made it very clear the last time that his son, Clive, had come to see him. His large number of huge bills were something that was not to occur again. Unfortunately, the Earl had by now been enjoying himself in London, and that was expensive, especially when his wild extravagance included an extremely attractive young girl who was a dancer at the Drury Lane Theatre. As he drove out of London, and the traffic was less, the Earl increased the pace of his horses. He thought that he would like to achieve the record to Shelbourne Towers in Oxfordshire, and there was little reason to doubt that he would be successful. Reflectively, he began to rehearse in his mind what he would say to his father. He knew that conversations about money invariably ended in a flaming row, and this, however, did not just apply to money. The Duke of Shelbourne was a very rich man, and he could therefore well afford his only son's extravagance. What infuriated him was that the boy had refused to marry. "We have to have an heir to all this," the Duke had said, not once but 1,000 times. "I do realize that, Papa," the Earl invariably replied, "but there is plenty of time, and I will be extremely careful not to die without having provided you with a grandson or two." He meant this to be a joke, but the Duke did not think it funny. He had suffered agonies when the Earl had been serving abroad with his regiment. The moment he returned and decided he wanted to resign his commission, the Duke had heaved a large sigh of relief. Now, he said to his relations, "Clive will settle down and have a family. Heaven knows there are enough women for him to choose from." The Duke appreciated that his son was at the top of the list of London hostesses as a most eligible bachelor. He was not only the heir to the dukedom, he was outstandingly handsome, intelligent, and good at any game he turned his hand to. He also, as those who knew him well were aware, had considerable charm. This, with his good looks, made him irresistible to women. The Duke knew perfectly well that there was not an important family in the whole of the country who would not welcome his son with open arms, and they would prove to boast that he had married one of their daughters. At 28, Clive was still unmarried. He was wise enough to keep well away from the débutantes who were a snare for any bachelor, and deftly avoided invitations from his father's friends with young daughters. Instead, he enjoyed himself with married ladies who had complacent husbands, and he really enjoyed the allure of the women he saw behind the footlights, and he met them in the many nightclubs he frequented with his gentleman friends. The only difficulty was that such pleasures were extremely expensive, and his father resented having to pay for them. As the Earl drove on, he was totting up a list of the items he was carrying bills for. The horses he was driving had been very expensive, largely because there had been several others older than himself bidding for them. The diamond bracelet he had given the adorable Fifi had naturally delighted her, and there was, however, no doubt that his father would consider the cost involved an unnecessary frippery and luxury. "For the pleasure she has given me," he thought defiantly, "I should have given her the necklace to match it." But he knew that he was not brave enough to do so. As it was, there were enormous bills for clothes, and there was also a big bill for a party he had given for one of his
Sample complete. Ready to continue?